Hi, everybody, and welcome to OpenExO Live. So great to be here with you all. This evening, we have Mervyn George, who's from South Africa, joining us. And next week, we have Kristen. You can also see our amazing lineup of people from the OpenExO community that will be joining us over the next couple of weeks. So before we get Mervyn on screen with us, I did want to just share a little bit, some comments from our OpenExO community about Mervyn. So if we start off, we have from Sanjay Bana. He just said, you know, Mervyn has a heart for community, innovation, entrepreneurship. Whenever I think of Mervyn, I have this picture of someone very wise and experienced in corporates and EXO, working hand in hand with SMEs and business in general to bring about change and solutions to real world problems. Seung Hee from South Korea just said, you know, Mervyn is a creative and inspiring speaker, business thinker and coach. He is up to date with future-oriented business trends and at the same time has heartwarming stories. Then Lance Pepler, also from South Africa, said Mervyn is one of a very few people who understands both technology and business strategy and has worked with both startups and large organizations. If we move on to Nokutaba Mtunzi, who's from Botswana, she said Mervyn is a magnificent team player, very resourceful, and shares his knowledge with others. He demonstrates and articulates his broad exposure in technology with such boldness. On many occasions, he left me convinced he is ahead of time. He is a good communicator and a public speaker of note. And another one of the people who was on the coach certification with Mervyn, Jimbo from the Philippines, said, Mervyn is an astute and personable leader with a deep understanding of technology and people. He is equally adept at execution and at coaching people to reach their highest potential. And lastly, I have a comment from a participant that Mervyn was an advisor for, said, you know, Mervyn shared our passion for the product we are building and knew what questions to ask to help improve our MTP. He was very well prepared for our advisory call that created several important insights. So this is, you know, who Mervyn is, a little bit about Mervyn. So I'm going to bring Mervyn onto stage with me. Mervyn, really great to have you here this evening. How are you doing? How are you doing? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm well, thanks. I'm quite overwhelmed by the comments that you've managed to source there. That's quite a nice surprise. Yeah. No, I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
Yeah, no, perfect. So Mervyn, some people have said a little bit about you, but can you tell those who are watching, you know, a bit about your background? Where do you come from, and
Sure.
and how did you get into the EXO world?
Okay. So in some ways, I feel like I've gone full circle. What I mean by that is, I grew up in Cape Town, South Africa, and at some point I moved to Johannesburg to join my current employer. Second time I worked for them, but I entered the IT sector, the technology sector, working for the software vendor. And I lived in Johannesburg for some time, and then we were fortunate to get an opportunity to move to the UK, which was meant to be for 1 year. We went to Cambridge while my wife was studying there, and before we knew it, 1 year became 10 years, and by that time I became a bit of a global citizen, a bit of a nomad in terms of work, spending a lot of time in the Middle East and in China and in the US, and not much time at home, to be honest. And I'd say about 3 years ago, we decided to move back to South Africa and to move to Cape Town again. So I'm dialed in from Cape Town today. But yeah, I'm sure we'll go through the detail of let's say work background and exposure. But in a nutshell, I've got depth in enterprise software, working for multiple software vendors over my career. And I'm quite passionate about growth strategy, small businesses looking to scale up.
No, perfect, perfect. And before we do continue, I did want to just say to all of those who are watching, we will be checking out the comment section. So do say hi, say say hello, and then also just share any questions you may have, any comments, so that we can really get this interactive. So Mervyn, you as you said, I mean you've lived a bit all around the world and really have that passion around innovation. What got you interested in EXO?
So I actually knew nothing about EXO when I saw all of the promo material and banners at an event. I was speaking at Africa Tech Week about 2 years ago, or early 2019. Yeah, I was speaking at Africa Tech Week in Cape Town, and the keynote was by Salim Ismail, and this topic around exponential organizations came up, and for me it all sounded very logical, but I hadn't heard it before. And naturally, that caused me to reach out and chat to him. And I met you there as well. And I met a few other members of the ecosystem. And that piqued my interest because a lot of us was talking about frameworks that can help businesses to apply growth levers to improve the performance and the reach and the community and also the extent of their business, right? So that got me checking out the website, signed up. I think we spoke. There was some qualification process I had to go through at the time. But slowly I became more and more engrossed and moved from just being a passive member to becoming one of the global ambassadors. And then I joined the first cohort of the consultant certification. And a few weeks ago, I just completed the sprint coach certification as well. So I'd say it's sort of caught a lot more of my interest, and I've started weaving that into different aspects of normal daily life.
No, perfect. So as you say, I mean, you are working, for an enterprise software company for SAP, and so how does that this innovation thinking actually fit into your role?
Yeah. So there are different aspects. So I do work for SAP at the moment. I'm actually part of a regional, Southern Europe, Africa, and Middle East Innovation Office. And what we do is we question the way that we are going to market. So we try and find new ways, either new ways to talk to the same companies and brands and customers, or we try to find new types of engagements and workshops that would make sense. Or new messaging that would make sense to bundle different problems with different types of ways of solving it. So formally, I work as part of an innovation unit. I've got an innovation strategy lead role to focus on the African continent, but as I said, part of a regional team. But there are a couple of other things. So I'm also running taking the lead for Africa for our 1 Billion Lives Social Impact Initiative, where we get internal employees who want to come up with ideas to tackle the Sustainability Development Goals, and they would then be shortlisted. If they are selected, they go through an accelerator program, and if they make it through that successfully, then they are funded to launch and run that business under the SAP banner. And there's also a commercial for-profit version of that as well. So, there's the formal role, there's the lead for the social impact initiative, and then there's also the venture partner role for the new ventures initiatives that SAP runs.
Okay, so obviously keeping yourself super busy with so much going on, and what are you seeing with corporates out there and innovation, like how are they actually managing, like not only now with COVID and that massive change, like but in general, like what are you seeing your clients doing?
So that's a mixed bag. I think it will differ depending on the geography, right? So for example, at the peak of the European COVID pandemic numbers, you were also seeing big investments in technology. And naturally, you'd think that that would be governments or healthcare departments that would making those investments. But other companies are also looking at how they can future-proof their business, how they can build for resilience going forward. I'd say looking at South Africa now, we're sort of playing a few months behind the Northern Hemisphere, the European track record or trajectory that we've had. And in this particular context, you've got companies that are sort of playing it cautiously, trying to wait and see what's happening, and probably trying to understand their business a lot better. So right now, if you're looking at things like analytics and dashboards and insight, there's a lot of effort to understand, what are my critical roles? What are my where am I spending money? What's my cash flow looking like? What's the runway looking like before we run out of cash and where we'll need funding? So I think understanding the business right now has been key in that first wave of trying to survive. And the next step is looking at investments in technology and other practices to try and start future-proofing.
Okay, yeah, and so I mean, so how do you look to weave in the EXO thinking in this decision making? Because like you've said, I mean people are focusing on making sure, okay, I can stay afloat for now, but not necessarily looking at massive innovation, but like that can also have quite detrimental effects, right? Not focusing on that at all.
So I'd say the positive thing is that there's an appetite for innovation, and that's because we're in a period of adversity, and adversity sort of spawns survivalist thinking, right? And what I'm finding is that typically what you'd find is if you take a small business that's got the agility and doesn't have the corporate bureaucracy associated with decision making, they'd be able to if you take the OpenExO, the EXO framework, they'd be able to adopt different growth levers and maybe multiple attributes at one time. Whereas with a larger organization, you might find that they're only able to accommodate one or two of those growth levers at a time. So they might look at how can we take some of our core business and outsource that using a staff on demand model, or how can we take some of our manual processes and put that into an automated dashboard based interface type process. So there is definitely a focus on trying to do innovation, but what I'd say right now is that when you're looking at a large enterprise, the prioritization of what can be afforded right now, as well as what will have the biggest impact immediately, has been revisited. Companies, especially in the current climate, are trying to make sure that they're allocating resources where it makes the most sense right now. But at the same time, you still have, I guess you could call them visionaries, but you've got the visionaries who are looking towards beyond 6 months' time, 12 to 18 months' time, and starting to understand, what the future of those industry sectors they represent looks like, and where they should be, starting to make arm's length adjustments to the way they work.
No, absolutely, and those, I mean, those visionaries that that are looking out further. I mean, how are they feeling in this climate? The ones that you are connected to. What is the feeling there?
So again, I think it's a bit of a mixed bag. I think you've got. I'm an ideas person, and my wife is a realist, so I might be the one coming up with crazy wild ideas, and she's the one saying, "Well, let's put logic to this," and she's an engineer, so you get that in business as well, right? You've got those who are saying, "We're really passionate about it. It's all about customer experience, brand experience. We will die trying to make sure that the customer understands that we're there for them." But at the same time, you've got somebody looking at it from a finance perspective or from an operational perspective, saying that's going to cost too much to do. So, so there are some realities in terms of what can be afforded. And also what tends to play out is even when you're looking at the data and the data saying you should do A lot of people move to do B. You know, I'm reminded of there's a really good book that I read a while ago, which is called Sway. And it's by the, I think it's the Braffin brothers, Ori and Ram Braffin. And the book Sway, and it's basically about how you may have all of this data sitting in front of you saying you should divest here, you should invest here, you should prioritize this project over another, but something else decides to throw the logic aside, like emotion or bias, and sort of pushes you down a completely different, unjustified route. So I think that still happens, right? Where people are saying,
yeah,
we need to do this, but actually to keep pace with our customer base or with the brand perception, maybe we should not do that, and we should actually invest in something else.
Yeah, no, absolutely. To shift gears a little bit, there is a question here from Louis about quantum computing. I don't know what he's just saying, how are you dealing with advances in quantum computing? It's a little bit off track, but
Louis, I'd say I'm not qualified to answer that question. I actually sat through a 45-minute session talking about what we are doing in the quantum computing space. It was so captivating that it lasted an extra 30 minutes. But I think that stepping out of that meeting, everybody in the call, including myself, had about 50 terms that we needed to Google to find out what the definition was. Right? So I'm not qualified about it. I do know that we, our database platform, SAP HANA, is one that was designed for in-memory architecture, for high-performance computing, handling of big data, all of that. And with the advances in quantum computing, that would definitely leverage those gains. But I don't have the detail. I know that we've got a dedicated team that is looking at what the impact is to the way people run SAP.
No, absolutely. And of course, when it comes to quantum computing, I mean, most people are mostly concerned about security because everyone concerned that, well, if you can quantumly hack me, that's what is going to happen. But so if we actually look towards the initiatives that are out there that you're working with, what's getting you most excited, right now?
So it's there are a couple of things. The team that I'm part of, we've got this initiative where we try to take a particular industry sector and understand some key challenges with that. We've called it, we've labeled them squads. And for the first, let's say, 4 months of this year, I've been focused on looking at the healthcare industry and specifically looking at patient experience and what the expectations are for practitioners. Right now, the one I'm focused on is looking at corporate resilience and looking at how that is structured so you can build a corporate resilience engine, essentially. But there are a number of initiatives. Another one is, if you look at SAP's purpose, it is to help the world run better and to improve people's lives. So there's actually a unit that I'm part of that's looking at what are the purpose-led initiatives that we are driving. How do we align that under a banner? How do we tell people about it? And how do we invite people to be part of that process? So there's that. There's the customer-facing aspects. There's an initiative which we have strategically focused on within R&D, which is looking at carbon footprint analysis and embedding that as part of the software, so that for a company, to give you the perspective, 70% of the world's transactions touch an SAP system. So the reach of SAP technology is vast, and some of the biggest, let's say, producers of carbon emissions are also running SAP at some point within their process. So it's quite a key priority for us to help those companies to understand what their footprint is like and to help them improve it. And that's now becoming part of the software to visualize, what your impact is, to be able to know where to action some of those. So in terms of my role within that, a lot of it is evangelizing some of those initiatives, understanding from the product teams what they're working on, doing research with customers and entities to understand how they would benefit from using that. And then it's a mix of sharing those comms internally, packaging that so that people outside of the SAP world can understand what we're doing, and also sort of educating colleagues to understand how we can actually make the world run better and improve people's lives.
No, absolutely, perfect. And I mean, and I know that you also have this SAP Innovation Roundtable. You want to just explain a little bit about
yeah,
what
sure.
that is?
So this is an initiative that we founded in South Africa with a colleague, and the idea is to have an atypical audience get together. So, for example, we've had startup founders, we've had management consultants, we've had colleagues from the OpenExO community, we've had SAP customers, we've had SAP partners, but getting everybody together to have a discussion that you wouldn't expect to have at a tech vendor. And some of them have been very technical. So we've talked about the role of blockchain in an enterprise context. We've talked about AI and 5G. We've talked about cognitive robotic process automation. But at the same time, we've had business topics like how to measure success in innovation, right? The one coming up I think it's on the 5th of August in the morning, 10 a.m. CEST, is looking at how to build a resilient business in the pandemic era. And then the two that are following after that are talking about this climate 21 climate carbon footprinting analysis that I mentioned. And the one after that is looking at consent, privacy, and GDPR/POPI acts.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, then that's great. I mean, Mervyn, the generally with these calls, we try to keep them to about this time, and we've hardly actually scratched the surface here. So it's it is always great chatting to you. But to sort of end off, where can people find you, and what do you really want to share with people who are watching this either live or are going to see it on the page going forward?
Yeah, so where can they find me? So email address is mervyn.george@sap.com. It's Mervyn with a Y. You can see the name on the screen at the moment. I'm quite active on LinkedIn, so that's always a good channel if you want to reach out and not remember an email address. Your question was around what would I want to leave with people? I think the one thing that I had initially recommended to consultants in the enterprise software space a while back, and I'm realizing is now also valid in the innovation consulting space, right? Is don't make assumptions, and no question is a silly question. Because what I found is that in both of those domains, you can be an expert and experienced advisor in one, let's say, column of experience, and you may know just a little bit about something that's not too far away, and the other person may be sitting in an opposite direction. So it's a case of saying, I'm an old dog. Can I learn a new trick? Should I ask an old dog? Should I ask a young dog? Actually, any kind of dog can teach me a little bit about that. So having that, I forget what the term is, but the Japanese have this concept of coming with an empty cup, and walking into the room where you have an empty cup and you're expecting to fill it with bits of wisdom from the people in the room. And I think if you have that approach, especially if you're interested in innovation strategy, in disruption, in digital transformation, you can learn anything from anyone, and you may not expect them to be the person that's going to share that nugget of wisdom with you. So to borrow a phrase from a Dutch friend of mine, start that relationship with a new contact with 100%, and just assume that you'll be able to learn something from them. You can always deduct marks as the relationship unfolds.
No, absolutely, Mervyn. I mean, one thing I like to say is you can eat the fruit and you can sort of spit the pips out, right? Like so you don't have to agree with everything, right? But you can glean the best out of any situation, really. So,
exactly.
But Mervyn, it's always great chatting to you.
Likewise.
And I know that you have a lot going on. So for anyone watching, do follow Mervyn on LinkedIn. You'll see many of the different initiatives that he's running. And so really great to chat to you. And yeah, we'll chat to you again soon.
Sure thing. Thanks, Kevin.
Cheers, Mervyn. So it's really great chatting to Mervyn, and another one of our OpenExO community members that is out there actively working in the world, making a massive difference. So thank you to everybody for joining us today, for being here. I'm going to end the show just with a little bit of info about our digital replay for our EXO World Summit. So thanks very much, and we'll see you again next week.